Zaha Hadid, Santiago Calatrava, and Frank Gehry are perhaps our most preeminent star architects. And I will approach their works with the great honesty in that I am awed by them, horrified, and then envious. I am awed because they make phenomenal and interesting buildings and create spaces that are unique. I'm horrified and appalled because they are expensive, personal expressions that are quite wasteful. And then I am envious because I want to know how I get clients who let me spend money like that. But it is fair to point out that none of these architects have ever done any videos discussing my work. And so I realize my place in this world. But if you look at their work, you see that it is part magician. It is part of making a sensation, and the essence of the building are hidden behind a number of tricks. So Frank Gehry's undulating titanium steel shapes are only possible because someone has gone through and constructed a rather complex steel structure to hold it up, to hold it in place. It is a hollow form. It is not a form expressive of its structure, as Brunelleschi's dome is the form that expresses its structure, or Eero Saarinen's Dulles Airport is a form that expresses its structure. Its structure is subordinate to the form because the form is the ego. The form is the trademark that must be expressed. Zaha Hadid has an extensive career. She's a British-Iraqi architect, and her most famous building is probably the Haydar Aliyev Center in Baku, Azerbaijan. And here we see the very definition of a bubble building. And it is a beautiful space. I've not been there. I hope to get there someday to experience it. And yet it looks like it's kind of folded in tucked and different ways and frozen, as if someone had taken a sheet and like flapped it in the wind and they're letting it settle down. So it's got this apparent lightness to it, and yet the structure of it is quite complex, and the spaces it creates are astounding. And still, it would not have been possible without the computer, not only to design the forms, but they also link the computer to the machines that form the metal so that all the pieces are formed by computer and then brought to the site and bolted in place. Santiago Calatrava is another unique kind of architect. And his buildings on first look like they are structural expressions of what's going on. And that might have been true of some of his bridges, but on most of his buildings you find out that they are eye tricks. They are magic tricks. They are not structural expressions of the building, but rather some ornate piece that's attached to it to give it some sort of imitation of structure. Probably the best and his most famous example is the Hub Path Station at the World Trade Center. Here is a spiky skeleton of a building that looks like it should be some sort of structural expression, but it really is an affectation. And stripped of that affectation, it's a very simple building. Now, the inside is still shaped well, and it's got an astounding sense of space. It's practically transcendent, but it's not a true building in the modern sense of expressing that which it is and nothing else. It is ornament, but it's ornament not on the level of Greco-Roman style or Gothic style, but it is ornament as a piece of extraneous building parts put together. They all have an extensive amount of work, and they are heralded as great architects, and they are. But I wonder if there isn't a little bit of showbiz deception, a little bit of snake oil that isn't part of it, and perhaps that doesn't matter. And in 100 years, people will be looking at their buildings and still be astounded.